In this video, we're working on the F Type. Hello and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be doing some really exciting work on the F Type. We're going to be doing some supercharger work, so we're going to be doing a supercharger service and then also replacing those prone to fail coolant pipes. So something I realised sitting back here editing this video, watching these time lapses, is how everything looks so easy and how you obviously don't see what I'm thinking. I was pretty nervous at this point because I knew I was about to basically dismantle a whole top part of my engine. And this car is very expensive and I would not want to break anything, so I was quite nervous. Also considering this is like at least £1,000 worth of work, and I know mechanics are very skilled and charge good money for that for a reason, so I knew this wasn't going to be easy. And I actually ran into my first problem extremely quickly because this bolt that I'm undoing here snapped in half, and you can see I pull out a smooth bolt there, leaving the threads firmly stuck into that engine. And I actually didn't realise how big of a problem that was going to be until later on, so stay tuned if you want to see that headache. And as soon as we get that cover off, then the engine bay starts to look very different. So we've got this centerpiece here, which is the actual supercharger itself, and then each side they're basically like the intake manifolds. This piece here that we've just taken off is the charge cooler, so coolant goes through each side and cools down that pressurized air going into the engine. Now on the front of the supercharger we've got a couple of air intake pipes, a couple of coolant pipes, a couple of electronic connectors, and pretty much everything in between. There's a bunch of stuff that we've got to take off here, most notably this coolant pipe which I'm touching now, which is going to go straight in the bin as a point of common failure, so we're going to replace that with that lovely shiny aluminium pipe. Now then, if you've made it this far through the video, I would hope that you're enjoying it, and if you are, please do feel free to subscribe, and also I'd really appreciate it if you did hit that like button. In addition, I know it's a little bit of a cliche, but I do really appreciate all of the comments that I get. I do read every single one and I reply to most. I just love hearing different opinions from people, different perspectives, and also learning lots as well. So please, if you've got anything to say, please do feel free to leave a comment. Take a listen to this supercharger now. So that rattle definitely shouldn't happen. When the car left the factory, there would have been no play in that at all. And that's exactly what we're going to be fixing in this video. So you'll see that fixed once we've changed that coupler. Now, all of this in front of your eyes is a prime example of why time lapses make everything look easy. This was a horrible process. It took at least an hour of wiggling this thing back and forth to get it off. And it was only when Fion, my girlfriend, managed to help me. She was there for about 15 or 20 minutes and we started to make some really good progress. So that thing was actually seized on there. There's a couple of pins that actually help to guide the thing on, and they just seize in and it's really hard to get it off. So you've taken all the bolts out, but the thing just does not budge. So that was a 20-second time lapse of about an hour's worth of wiggling. This was the point though that I was really starting to get excited about this job. Knowing that we had that supercharger off and everything was apart was a really cool milestone, and just being able to see the engine like this with those 2-3 cylinders on each side, that V6 shape, was really cool. Now the thing that I want to bring your attention to is this pipe that I'm just about to lift off, and you see I lift it off and I go to put the new one on, and then I'm a little bit confused and I kind of stop. A couple of minutes later I'm sort of picking at this little bit here, and what I take out, I realise, is a part of the old pipe. And not only is that on one side, but it's on both. Which means that I've just lifted that old pipe out and it's just pretty much fell apart. So you can see the old pipe here now, and look at both ends. They're just all sort of charred up, and like you can see how this has just literally fallen apart. Now, the reason why we're doing this whole job is partly because of this, and that's a known point of failure, right? Now, that's just proven to me the fact that both sides have gone. That definitely was worth doing, and I guarantee that that would have caused a coolant leak at some point in the future. At this point, I'm feeling pretty good about this job because I'm happy that I've actually fixed that problem, and I'm also about to fix this coupler problem. So we're on the home stretch now with the supercharger off the car, and we're just taking off this snout. Now, the thing that connects the snout to the supercharger body is this bit that I'm just about to take off here, which is called the coupling, and you'll see a spring in there, and it's that spring which has basically failed and it's no longer doing its job. So the problem with that is, because the spring isn't doing its job, it's basically allowing some play between the actual supercharger itself and that front shaft. The replacement part is a solid coupler, so there's no spring and there's nothing to fail, so this is going to be a lifetime part for the car, and we never need to worry about this again in the future. And you'll see in a second what a massive difference this has actually made when we get this thing together. Reassembling the supercharger was pretty easy, same as in reverse really, just putting those bolts back in and getting everything torqued up. Check out the difference here. This is just night and day, there's absolutely no wiggle room. That coupling went in with a really tight fit, and you can see everything that I did with my hand there was translated to that supercharger movement. Next up then, we're just going to be changing the oil in the gears at the back of the supercharger. So I've just taken those couple of bolts out and I'm just taking this cover off. Now you can do this via the sort of drain and fill plug at the top, so you can sort of siphon the old oil out and put some new stuff in. If you've got the supercharger off, you may as well take the plate off and just give everything a good clean just to start afresh, which is exactly what I've just done here. So it was a quick job, cover off, give it a good clean, cover back on, and then we'll just put some fresh oil in, ready to keep those gears going and the bearings as well for hopefully many more years. Right then, it's at this part of the job that I started to not enjoy things quite as much, despite us being, in theory, more than halfway there. Now, it took me a little while to realise the bolt that snapped towards the start of the video actually went into the cylinder head here, which really isn't very good news, because if I mess something up here, if I mess the cylinder head up, like, the car is probably going to the garage with a very, very big repair bill to get that repaired. So I spent probably more than an hour here in this time lapse drilling out the old bolt, and then ended up using a tap, which basically just allowed me to like reform those threads to make sure that we had good clean threads. And I did get away lucky this time. I managed to get that all out and get some clean threads left for the bolt to go back into. Problem is, what bolt? Because I've just drilled half the bolt out and the other half is somewhere on the garage floor, you know, snapped. So just after placing that supercharger back in there, I then thought, why not try and fix that bolt? So you're probably going to call me crazy. Yes, I will replace this at some point from Jaguar. I wanted to get the car kind of done, back together, get the video done, get the car driving, and then worry about ordering the bolt another time. So I actually did prioritize fixing this bolt. And you can see here I've got this poor perfectly good donor bolt which is getting cut in half, and I've got some lovely clean threads there. I'm just offering that up against the old broken one. And then the idea here was to almost create sort of like a point on each end of the things that I was joining together. That will make sense in a second, but you can see here I'm doing that on both bits. And then when I actually join those things together, you can see I've now left a gap where I can now weld those things together. And the idea here is really just to do, you know, little welds, slowly filling in that gap to basically join those two bits together. And I got a bonus fire in the garage here, which you'll see now, which is always good fun. Gutted about that sheet, RIP to that bed sheet. And I'm just cleaning it up here, and I'll be honest, for like 20 minutes worth of work, given I've not actually used that welder in about 2 years, I'm pretty happy with that. So someone's probably going to rinse me in the comments, so thank you very much for that. Overall, it looks okay, the bolts are similar lengths, and Zorro is even approving of that work. Hello. Now that we've got that bolt fixed, we're really on the home run, just getting this whole thing back together, which was a little bit of a challenge, just remembering which order things went back together in, and the usual remembering what bolts went where. All in though, no real big dramas and no real big challenges, so you can see here just gradually starting to get everything back together and back into one piece. And check out that nice new shiny coolant pipe at the top there. Here we go. I'm expecting it to be a little bit rough to start with, but hopefully it sounds good after that. And let's go for it. Oh, I'm scared to press the button. Okay. Okay. Sounds okay. So we're taking the various bits of the coolant system apart. I had actually lost around 3.5 litres of coolant, so you see me here just topping up a litre, but yeah, it took in total about 3.5 litres to get that thing full. And now we are putting the final piece of the puzzle back on, which is the bonnet, and that went on nice and easily, and then just the engine cover as well to finish the whole job off. So then, as that bonnet comes down for the final time, I've got to ask myself the question, was this all worth it? Now, the skills that I've gained from doing this job, the actual experience of working on the F Type, overcoming that initial fear, and getting to film a cool video out of it, overall, it's been a really enjoyable and rewarding process. And honestly, the fact that that coupler had already pretty much gone, and the fact that that coolant pipe has already pretty much fallen apart is just a bonus. So if you have any jobs like this in mind, whether it's on your car or on something else, just keep in mind, feel the fear and do it anyway. You probably won't regret it. So with that being said, that's just about everything I wanted to say in this video. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.